Chapter 2. Cole. I have a question for you, Grail. I glanced over at Grail holding his baby Amy, as Caden trotted around coffee, tea, and listening to customers' complaints about not enough variety of Augustine's pastries, and why didn't they have enough, and why were they constantly running out of their favorites. Caden stopped for a second to kiss Amy, and explained to her why he couldn't pick her up in between the praise from most of the customers. Then he darted back and forth, asking customers if they had everything they needed, and why not try the special blends, or one of the wonderful pastries, while rushing behind the counters, making sure the waiters were taking care of the customers there. They had enough baristas to accommodate the large crowd, which had depleted all the pastries. On some occasions when the shop appeared to be empty, which wasn't often, Grail would stand outside with a baby carrier strapped to his chest with Amy sleeping comfortably, holding flyers and handing them out to bring in new customers. Who could resist a father with his new baby strapped against his chest? Not even I could, when I didn't even have chick or a child, and didn't see that in my future, especially since Keys and I were devoted to our professions, and that was why I was in the coffee shop to see Grail and Caden. "What is it, Cole?" Grail asked after sitting beside me, with Amy sleeping comfortably against his chest. I didn't have all day, and that was when I turned and faced Grail. "I need help." I knew I was being vague, but I didn't know how to reveal my innermost fear, and that was that Keys and I were growing apart, and I needed to do something, and in a hurry. I blurted out before I'd considered where I was, and that the music piped in was calm and light jazz. With my relationship, I confessed. Caden was passing and had stopped to give Grail a "good morning, I love you" kiss. However, before he could lean over and ghost a kiss over Grail's lips, Grail and Caden turned to me and said in unison, "Did I hear you correctly? You're asking for advice about your sex life?" Caden said then, standing straight and narrowing his eyes. "That's not what I said or what I meant." I raised my voice, glancing around to see if there was anyone listening to our conversation, and then I lowered my voice. "Our sex life couldn't be better, but we never have time for each other. We don't cuddle anymore, or take time to experiment, you know what I mean?" "No. I'm afraid we don't," Grail said, when Caden stopped marching around from counter to table and decided to sit. I guessed he needed to know that I was human, and not that guy who thought he had it all together, and was a know-it-all. "I'm having a bit of a problem trying to do my job properly, and have a life. The life of a professor who's trying to get tenure isn't what it appears to be. I can't pay some of my bills." Caden interrupted, Wait. Isn't Keys wealthy?" "That's the problem, because he makes the majority of the money and pays for everything, and I can barely pay for this expensive coffee you sell here." "Let's not get nasty," Caden said. "My coffee prices are still low, and if you don't like it, you can go on Main Street at the Unmentionable, and see what you get for that price, and after you drive there, then calculate what you spent on gas, and speaking of gas, Miles and his new boyfriend make me want to upchuck. How can anyone stand Cody, especially since he's here every minute?" Caden rose from his seat, gave Grail a light kiss, and said, "I have one thought about you and Keys. If those two can fall in love, then everything's possible. I have to discuss something with Miles." Then Cody, who looked lost in this shop, who had been used to living in New York, strode over before I could get some advice from my best friend. He nodded at me and shook Grail's hand. "Grail, I have some business I'd like to discuss with you when you have time. You have my card and number. If you want, you can FaceTime me, and we can discuss it, but for now I'm talking to my friend, and I never like to discuss business this early in the morning when I'm having a coffee break and I have my child with me. You do know Cole. Sorry to intrude, and yes, we did speak for a second at your ranch. I'll contact you later." And Cody made an awkward turn of his body, stared, hands in pockets, and strode over to the nearest counter, sat and ordered a coffee as I tried to get Grail to concentrate on my problem. I huffed and took a sip of coffee the waiter had placed in front of me, which was cold. Maybe this was a bad idea. I rolled my eyes when I tried to get Grail's attention. His eyes were pacing around the shop with Caden. You two look good together. You have that May to December thing working out just fine. Maybe that would get him back to my problem. Talking about Caden always had him smiling, and he turned and faced me. I wished Keys's dick would get that hard whenever I was around. Does it show on my face? Grail said as he took a sip of his coffee, and then placing it on the table said, What was this about you and Keys? We can't seem to get on the same page, I admitted. Maybe if you stopped being a professor for a second, and came down to earth and talked to him. Do something unexpected, like go to his shop and suck his cock in his office. What, me? Yes, you. What is this, a game, Cole? You're a man, and I don't know your mating habits, and I don't want to know, but maybe it's you. You could bore someone to death with those extra classes you've signed up to teach. That drama class, and everything you wanted to know about Hitchcock, and were afraid to ask. Now come on. Why the fuck are you working so hard? Could it be the new professor? How did you know about more classes on my schedule? And I'm not going to answer that question about the new professor, because you know me better than that. I narrowed my eyes and furrowed my brow at my friend. He should know me, but how does anyone know anyone that well? Hitchcock, yes, because that seems to be your passion, but drama? Get real. When have you ever been interested in acting? Since that new professor what's-his-name signed up this semester. Nevermore is a small town and there's talk. Well, it's not about me, and his name is Bradley for your information. Bradley Lund. That's exactly what I mean. When you mentioned his name your face lights up, but when you speak about Keys, there are creases in your face that I've never seen before. What is really going on with the two of you? Keys never has time for me. He's always working and… I thought you said that the sex was great. It used to be, and I said that because I didn't want Caden to know that I'm having problems. You're my best friend, and I'd like for you to keep that a secret. Then I realized where I was, and leaned around to see that Taylor and Chad had left the booth, and it was empty. I huffed out a sigh of relief. Caden and I have no secrets between us, but this once, I promise you I won't tell him about our conversation. Now can I enjoy the remains of my morning? I have to talk to Cody later about business, and I don't want anything to sour on my stomach just yet. I took that as Grail wanting to change the subject. Therefore I asked him about his father. How is Mr. Meadows? I have to get out to see him. He won't be at that nursing home for long, Cole, because we're making preparations to bring him home with us. We have more than enough room in my childhood home, and with Lane's husband being a nurse, he can take care of him, and Amy and I can help out, because I do most of my business from home. My father is spry for a man his age, and he really should never have been in that home, but you know that I was away, and I did what I could. I know you did, Grail, and you've done more than enough for me. You've been like a big brother to me, and I can't thank you enough, I said as I leaned over to hug Grail. Then I felt a pair of eyes on us and Grail glanced up. I thought that was you, Cole. Is this your husband? No. He's my best friend. Brad, meet Grail Meadows, Nevermore's resident lawyer. Well, coffee, tea, and these lawyer. Brad reached over and shook Grail's hand. I hope we get to see each other around, because I'm helping Cole produce and select young actors for his production. We haven't decided on Tennessee Williams's A Streetcar Named Desire, or Shakespeare. My choice wouldn't be Romeo and Juliet, but Julius Caesar would be in order, I thought. I didn't want Brad telling Grail that we would be working together at night during the production. It was great meeting you, Grail. I think I know that guy sitting at the counter. I really should say hello. I think I met him in New York at a club, Brad said. Then he turned and sauntered over to the coffee section and sat next to Cody. When Grail and I turned to the left in his direction, they seemed awfully familiar with each other. They were smiling, and Brad squeezed Cody's shoulder. I was shocked that he'd even allowed anyone to be that familiar with him. Maybe I'd been wrong about Cody after all, and he was loosening up a bit. When I glanced around, hoping to keep my conversation going with Grail, a tall, imposing, handsome guy full of muscles, sleeves of tattoos, and dark hair strode into the place, wearing black leather chaps over his jeans, a tee, and over it a black leather vest. He stood in one spot and glanced around the place, as if he was looking for someone. Most of the customers and waiters turned to eye him, and because I wanted to see what had caught their attention besides all that leather and muscles, I reached for my glasses and placed them on, and holy shit, I didn't recognize him at first, but as he strode closer to the booth, I knew that face, his wide chest, muscular arms, and long legs to be my husband Keys. What the fuck was he doing in here, and wearing his biker clothes this early in the day?